Hi, I'm Chef Shawn Bucher, author of the First Timers Cookbook, here with my good friend Nancy Miles, author of In Good Taste, Your Family History Cookbook, and this is the Buttermilk Blueberry Muffin recipe from Richard Paul Evans' new book, Promise Me. We're going to start out with our dry ingredients. So first we have our 2½ cups of cake flour, and I'm pouring it into this sifter here because I like to sift my flour. If you have one of these, that's great. You can also buy one of these. You don't have to, but it's made for sifting. So what we'll do is we'll add our flour in here, and then we have our baking soda, our salt, and our baking powder in here. We'll add that in there as well. And then we'll just kind of shake it so it sifts on out there. Now sifting your flour allows it to be nice and smooth, so there's no big chunks in it. If there's big chunks in it, it tends to not really cook up as well. Do you usually sift your flour?
No.
No?
I really don't.
So you really don't have to if you didn't want to?
I have one of these and I have used them. If certain recipes really have to be sifted. If you're using powdered sugar, for instance, you're going to want to sift it because it will never get rid of the lumps. So
Absolutely.
There's a time and a place for a sifter.
And so you heard it first there from Nancy. You don't have to sift it if you don't want to. I like to sift it.
He's
Either
only
way
the
works.
chef.
Yeah, but she makes a mean muffin. As you can tell, after you make these muffins, she was 50% of this. In fact, she worked out most of the kinks and made it even better.
I also gained 10 pounds.
Didn't we all?
It was awful.
Okay, once that is sifted in there, we have all of our dry ingredients together. Now, we'll go ahead and we'll add our sugar to a separate bowl. Now, if you don't want to use sugar, you can also use, this is a product called agave or agave nectar. This will actually, you'll have to use less of it. So for 1 cup of sugar that we used here, you would use about 2/3 cup of sugar of the agave, and it'll actually save you about 200 calories. So for those of you who are diabetic and want to save a little bit on calories and sugar, this is a good product for that. Okay, we'll add our sugar in here. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to crack 2 eggs right in here also, kind of just discarding the shells. I like the one-handed crack. Are you a fan of the one-handed crack?
Absolutely. I think kids need to learn the one-handed crack when they're little kids. That's
Absolutely.
a fun thing to do.
So I'm just kind of mixing this until it gets nice and frothy. We like the egg yolks and sugar and the eggs to really get whipped together so that it's nice and airy, a little bit frothy. Then at this point, we'll take our melted butter, we'll pour that in and kind of mix that together. Once again, I kind of like to mix until it gets nice and consistent throughout. I want the mix to be totally consistent. So until it's nice and frothy again, you can see how it's nice and uniform there. And now I'll add the buttermilk, which is the name of our recipe.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. A lot of recipes will call for sour cream and buttermilk and things like that. We are using buttermilk. Why? Because it's in the book. Okay, so we mix it all together. Now you notice it didn't take near as much time to mix it on that step. This is where I like to add our lemon zest. Here's a really, really good flavoring for blueberry muffins. Blueberries and lemon go together, mwah, perfectly.
They do.
They do.
And you can tell it's in there. You really know that lemon's in there. Yeah.
Now the lemon, we're going to take just the zest or just the colored part off with what we call a microplane. If you don't have a microplane, you can actually use a cheese grater and just get it off the same way.
Or you could find this in your husband's toolbox.
Yeah, not exactly the same thing, but it'll work.
It is the same thing.
So I go along the lemon here and just taking the yellow part off, the nice colorful zest. This is where all of the acids and things are in the peel, and it makes for really, really aromatic, or you can really smell it as you're doing it. Now we're going to get about a teaspoon off of here, or roughly about half the lemon. So you notice you got half the lemon here. Then I'll just knock that in there, mix this around into our wet ingredients. till it's nice and consistent. Now's the fun part. Now we'll take our dry ingredients, mix them in with our wet ingredients, and get our spatula. Make sure we get all that out. And then just nice and gently fold it all together. Now for this recipe, if you mix it really hard, the flour develops what's called gluten, and it doesn't set up quite as well. So we just nice and gentle fold it in here. Nancy, you want to finish folding that in?
Yep.
Now as she's folding this in, I'm going to grab our blueberries straight from the freezer.
A lot of people have asked if we could use a beater doing this.
You know, you could use a beater, but like I said before, the more you mix
good.
it, it really gets that gluten formed, and it's just not quite as soft, doesn't rise as much.
I've tried it every which way, and this really is the best way to do it.
Yeah, folks, we really have tried it every which way.
I bet you we've done, what, 20 different recipes?
At least.
At least, yeah.
That was just yesterday.
Everybody's sick of trying our muffins.
Now we're going to take our blueberries here, and we're going to measure out about 1.5 cups. And we're actually going to put them in a little bit of the flour, just a separate bowl of flour. So we've got about 1.5 cups there. And throw those in there. Now we just kind of toss these around just until they're coated. Now the reason that you do this is because once they're coated in flour, they won't sink when they're in the mixture.
They also don't bleed the color.
Exactly.
Because that'll
You don't want streak muffins, you want blue muffins, pockets of blue.
Yes.
Okay, so now what I'm going to do again with our sifter is I'm going to take the sifter and pour the blueberries in there. Then that way I'm not adding the extra flour. And just kind of sift that out. Now we have our nice coated blueberries, and we'll just toss those right in. Nancy, would you do the honors?
I will, but you're going to fill the cups.
Absolutely, I'm going to fill the cups.
Okay.
I got to do something today, right?
Yes, yes.
Now the cups, you'll notice, are not lined. You can line them with the bakery liners, or you can do it like we're doing it and spray them real well. So we'll take our pan spray and just kind of lightly spray them. Make sure that they're coated, but we don't have to drench them in it either. Okay, and once they're all coated, I like to use an ice cream scoop. Makes it really easy to get it out. If you don't have an ice cream scoop, you can just use a regular old 2 spoons, however it'll work. So we'll just take about a little bit of batter here and just kind of level it off. Put about that much in there. So it's full, but not too full, not all the way full.
Okay, while you're doing that, should I talk about the icing, the frosting?
That's a great idea.
Because that'll take us some time. Okay.
Just keep filling these up here.
All right, now we're going to do a simple frosting, but I noticed that Chef Shawn filled these muffin pans with 3 empty holes here, and why did you do that?
Well, because we didn't have enough batter to do that. So to make sure that they cook evenly, we're going to take some water here, and we're just going to kind of fill in those extra cups. Not all the way full, but just a little bit. That way it helps them cook evenly.
Now that's a good tip for people, because I know this does not make a straight dozen. And a lot of recipes make more than a dozen, so that's one way to make sure your balance comes out right on the baking. Okay,
and we'll go right into the oven.
Yes, do. All right, the frosting is very, very, very simple. You just have 2 8-ounce packages of cream cheese. You should have it at room temperature only because it's easier to work with. You know, I know we're all into fat-free and lower fat and this and that and the other, but I tell you honestly, just go for it, because the muffins aren't fat-free either. So just go for the real stuff.
Just go for the real stuff. You heard it from Nancy first.
A half a cup of sugar and just a half a teaspoon, wait a second, That is a half a teaspoon.
There's a half a teaspoon.
Half a teaspoon of cinnamon. This is kind of an unusual mixture for these because I don't think there's too many people that do a cinnamon with their frosting. So it's really kind of unusual.
But it tastes great. It
tastes wonderful, and it's very light, and it also stays on the cupcake. It doesn't melt down. I mean, I wouldn't put it out on your patio in the 100-degree weather, but it doesn't melt down, and it's just a really good combination of
cinnamon is naturally a really good combination with blueberries and lemons. That's why we kind of made a cinnamon frosting to go along with these muffins. The muffins in themselves are pretty sweet, and so with the frosting it makes them very sweet. So you may or may not want to use the frosting. That's totally up to you though.
You know, I'm sure you can find a crumb topping that you could substitute if you wanted to keep the sugar down a little bit, sweet down a little bit, but I think you'll find that these are pretty tasty. So we'll put these on after. I would suggest you refrigerate this until after the muffins come out because it's just leaves it a better texture.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Tastes great though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Don't do that at home.
Well, if you do, don't do the same finger twice.
Yeah, just don't do the same finger twice. There
That's
you
all
go.
you have to.
Once again, you heard it from Nancy first.
Okay.
Our muffins are out of the oven. We are ready to go. It's been about 25 minutes in the oven, about another 10 minutes cooling. They look pretty good, don't they?
I'm going to eat one as soon as we're...
Well, let's frost it and eat them.
Okay. Well, I don't think we have to show you too much about frosting, but here's the consistency of it, and you're just going to put on as much as you want. I know that the author of Promise Me, Richard Paul Evans, is not a big sweet type person, so he probably isn't going to be as fond of this icing as some of the people that are trying it will be. Still kind of warm.
Yeah, we all like it. That's all
now
matters,
you have to
right?
do that like they. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That's good. It's sweet, but it's good. It's nice because the blueberry, the lemon, and the cinnamon all kind of come together. Should we feed each other?
Wait.
No. This isn't our wedding video. What are we doing?
And you do taste distinctively the blueberries and the lemon zest, and that's excellent cupcake.
So go home and try it because now you know how to do it. You watched us do it, and if we can do it, anybody can do it, right?
Yes, indeed. Bon appetit, as they say.